Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today I'm going to be raging at stock tanks. And it's not only going to be me who's raging, it's also going to be my team who is raging at me. I guess because they think that I should be playing better in a stock M103. I'm playing on my Plays for Free account, and one of the things that I like to do on this account is to play vehicles completely stock. I have about 400,000 free experience on the free-to-play account. However, these days, I'm not actually spending it on the vehicles to be able to skip some of the most painful grinds. What I'm actually doing now is thinking about saving it so I can be able to spend it on releases for when Wargaming put in Tier 8 premium tanks, or they put in Tier 10 reward vehicles that you can be able to get for free experience. Just think about last year. Last year I think we got, the Object 268 version 5, which was pretty funky. We got the Object 780, and there was even an opportunity to be able to get an IS-3A Peregrine, which was, to all intents and purposes, an IS-3A, for I think only about 100,000 free experience on the European server. So I, for one, am trying to build up a bit of a war chest here to see if I can be able to afford anything pretty cool. There's a rumor, as I said in my The Future of World of Tanks video in 2023, at the end, that Wargaming might be putting the Lion into the next black market, or assembly shop, trading, hammer, black markety, hammery thingy, you know what I'm talking about. That it might be going in with the special tag, and if it does, probably it'll end up costing you about 600,000 free experience. So I'm trying to save instead of spending it on tanks. But it's not just that. It's also because the whole point of this account is meant to be that I experience the game like free-to-play players do. Quite often, free-to-play players have to spend long periods of time grinding in stock tanks, and no better candidate than the M103. What you're seeing here is an M103 with the stock tracks, the stock engine, the stock turret, and the stock gun. And to say this is a bad tank is an understatement. One thing I didn't realize about this vehicle is just how bad the turret is when it is stock. And so you should carefully look at the hit points of the M103, because if you see that it doesn't have a high amount of hit points, even if it's using a durability device, take advantage of that. This turret, I just got penned by a standard B here. You'd think that would ricochet, right? No, actually, it's only got about like 150 millimeters of turret armor pretty much all round. And it's super easy, even for a poor gun like I am using on this tank. I'm using the previous gun, the T-32 at Tier 9, to also be able to go through its own turret. Now this 105mm on this vehicle has 280mm of pen, and its gold pen is only 252. The whole purpose of this tank is the gun, the 120mm, the final 120mm that you get on this tank, which has good DPM, pretty good accuracy, really good gun handling. With the stock turret, I also have worse turret traverse, I have worse accuracy, my DPM is tragic. Yeah, I think you can see what I'm trying to highlight here. But I'm highlighting this video today because me and this Chrysler are going to have an interesting predicament. Now, this Chrysler, they're about a 55% win rate player in World of Tanks, so they're very good. Usually players who are in, shall we say, the top 20% of the player base, you know, as most 55% win rate players are, or maybe even a little bit more, maybe it's starting to get towards the top 10. Oh, that's probably about 58%, let's say, for top 10. They seem to know better, you know? And they seem to be, should we say, willing to cut very little slack to players. One thing that I want to highlight in this video today is that, to all intents and purposes, you don't know what's going on with the player. And I am very guilty of, over the years, I've been doing this for 10 years, and I was a different kind of person, you know, when I was 25, and just multiplayer games were different in 2012. I've definitely raged at players over the years. But there's one very important thing. What you say on a stream, or what you say on Discord with your mates, is very different as to when you take it to the next level and actively contact the player, or press your return key and send them a message in-game. So if you find yourself doing that, definitely think about the fact that the player maybe is just not the best player. Or maybe, in this case, that I'm blooming suffering in an M103. And even though I've got 60% average win ratio overall on my free-to-play account, I probably don't. Look at that roll, 272. Absolutely super painful. And here I am playing against a fully upgraded M103. I'm going to lock down his tracks. The Chrysler's going to follow up with a good shot. At least I know that I will have the rate of fire advantage here. Unfortunately, I can't quite manage to find the lower plate. Well, a few seconds, actually, I did manage to penetrate them. The Chrysler locks down the tracks. I'm going to put another round into the lower plate, and I pull back. And I'm going to wait for the BZ-176 to one-shot this M103, right? The Chrysler seems to want to go around the corner. He misses. And why would I want to lose the hit points right now? And the BZ-176 finishes him off. And then now, the Chrysler says, Serio, I guess he means serious, M103, I hope you 4-star. I press my affirmative key, because I usually like to should we say, troll back against people who are raging and being irrational. He says, I hope you 4-star with your mother, and he calls me a rat in capitals. And I say, I'm stock, mate. Chill out. I honestly don't know. He says stock brain ... and I press affirmative again. Oh, me so stupid. I don't know how to play World of Tanks after 10 years. Goodness gracious. I mean, I don't think I did anything really wrong there. I can't just go around the corner and be able to ricochet the M103, and why would I? Why would I want to lose my hit points when I can just let the BZ-176 go around the corner, you know? Haha, and I might need the hit points for later on the battle to possibly carry this ultra close game where we're down by 2k hit points in a kill. I've only done 1,200 damage. It's poor. However, I know the limits of my vehicles and I know what I can get myself into. I tell the M53-55 on my team to fall back. And one of the most ridiculous things here is that, unfortunately, you know that Chrysler who told me to go and 4-star my mum, who apparently is also a rat. Yeah, they've kind of got themselves isolated here by about 3 or 4 vehicles. So we'll see whether that works out for you, mate. Abandoning the team there and kind of not going with me in the BZ-176. But yeah, we'll see how it happens. And right now, I was just kind of like holding back. I wanted to say something, but of course you don't. And look, if I said everything that my brain thought, well, yeah, I definitely wouldn't probably still be around on YouTube or Twitch, right? It's not like I've got nefarious, evil things constantly going through my mind, but come on, that M103 kind of deserves it. So I don't say anything. And now the Chrysler sitting there, now dead. He should frankly go to the garage, says, and what are you doing now, stock brain player? And I come up with a very witty response saying, not getting isolated by 3 tanks, ? And blaming people. Oh, come on. I'm meant to be the QuickyBaby. That's what I do. I get myself isolated and I blame people. So, you know, pot kettle in this situation. At least the Chrysler hopefully takes that one in good humor. I think that was a pretty good burn in that scenario. And wow, look, there's BZ-176 on my team. It's kind of funny when you are the stock support tank in the higher tier heavy, and I'm just like, yo, I'll help you, Mr. BZ-176, in this situation. I ask him for help. I try and get myself into a position where the Moistion isn't going to be able to flank me and the artillery gets a shelling. And I'm going to be firing gold rounds, which, look, they're not like the 340 heat that you can get on the top gun, but they're half decent at 252. Unfortunately, the Moistion pens my turret. I managed to go through his lower plate. The BZ-176 says fall back, but in this scenario, I just got to get some shots in. We can't allow the Tortoise and the Emil and the Moistion to all attack us at the same time. Unfortunately, the BZ-176 fails to pen the Emil because it doesn't have the penetration on any of its ammunition, no matter how good that vehicle is, and I was just about ready to, yeah, not do very well. Luckily, I tracked the Moistion. They bounce off possibly the only good armor that I have on my vehicle, and now I think, okay, maybe I can outmaneuver them. Artillery stuns me. I use the med kit. I put a round in the side of the Moistion that sets them on fire for 400, as well as dealing 300 damage. And the BZ-176 manages to get around right through the side of the German behemoth, and suddenly I was thinking, no way. There's no way that the completely stock M103, who not only had to deal with the fact that I was stock, but also have to deal with just raging teammates, raging 55% win ratio teammates who want to go get themselves isolated instead of work together, is going to be able to get through this. Unfortunately, the BZ-176 only deals 80 damage with its HE shell. However, the artillery finishes off the Emil, and suddenly, this is actually looking pretty comfy. Now look, one thing I'd like to highlight is I'm not the hero of this battle. Clearly the overpowered tier 8 premium heavy tank is, the BZ-176. I told the BZ-176, just cover, I'll cap. He shuts him down, picks up 7 kills. The real MVPs of this battle have to be the M53-55 who have 3 kills and the BZ-176 on our team who managed to frag half of the enemy team. Here's something I'd also like to highlight, is that sometimes You have to be the support tank, and you have to play to your vehicle strengths. And just because you're stock doesn't mean that you can't also still play a good support role for your team. And even if that's you supporting lower tier heavies, it's about knowing the strengths, or in this case, knowing the weakness of your tank, and knowing about how you can actually still make it work. Even though Wargaming decide to give you the biggest weak point known to man on top of your tank, and also having a horrible turret on this tank, and also, you know, not even having an upgraded gun until you've spent like pretty much about 80,000 experience on this vehicle. Sheesh, this thing was a painful one to play. But if you ever find yourself in the position like the Chrysler, who I guess was greedy, wanted to be able to farm a load of damage and didn't want to wait for the BZ-176 to pick up the frag and then go get yourself isolated, and then you rage at your teammates, just cut them a little bit of slack. Maybe they're playing stock. Maybe they're just playing for the first time. Maybe they're at a tier which they don't feel comfortable. Try not to berate your allies and just think about what you can do to help them, because they might be trying as hard as they can with all of the disadvantages to do what they can for the team. So now I'm playing in the M103 again, but this time it's received some upgrades. This time I have the upgraded turret, so that means that I've been able to gain a few more hit points. I can also then drop out, I believe, the durability module on this vehicle to be able to instead use a turbo, which will now allow my top speed to be 37 or 38 kilometers an hour rather than the 34 base that this vehicle has. I've also now got the mid-tier gun on this vehicle. There's another 120mm, because Wargaming was so lovely that they decided it wasn't just enough to be able to grind 60,000 experience to be able to get the top gun on this vehicle. You should also have to grind tens of thousands of other experience to be able to get a gun, spend like a few 100,000 credits on it, only to then have to kind of suffer with it, but albeit a little bit less than you were suffering with the stock gun, to be able to get that top gun on this tank. All of these things are things that I never really had to do back in the day, because when the M103 came out, it was a vehicle that was a replacement for the T-34 back when it was at tier 9. So I had all of the modules fully upgraded, so I didn't have to suffer with the M103 and how painful the vehicle was. But there's some kind of strength that I'm gaining in that suffering, and I found that it's actually improving my way of playing when my vehicle is at a disadvantage. And that can also relate to your fully upgraded vehicles when you're finding yourself in uncomfortable situations as well. Boy, this gun is so much better than the 105mm. This mid gun might not have the best penetration on its standard rounds of 242, but its premium rounds at 340, oh, yeah, that's a bit of a pen upgrade. You're literally getting 100mm more penetration, and also the advantage of heat, which will be able to go through up to 85 degrees of angled armor compared to the APCR rounds, which will ricochet once you're going above 70. And so, back in the day, the M103 as well was actually my first vehicle that I ever made a YouTube video on. Would you believe it? This is the vehicle that spawned QuickyBaby when you think about it, because I made YouTube videos before I streamed back in 2012. And yeah, I had a really good game on the Arctic region map. Is that what it's called? Arctic region? Mannerheim? I don't think it's called Mannerheim Line. I think it might be Mannerheim Line. Well, you know, you probably know the map that I'm talking about. The one with the water towards the southeast. Oh god, that's pretty much all of the maps in the game now, right? What I'm trying to suggest is this is the one that spawned the QuickyBabs. And I know when I'm in a stock vehicle that even if you've got like a tier 10 meta tank like this in the Super Concrete, if I get behind it, it's good. So, you know, make those push plays, absorb some punishment for your team, force them to be able to push through. And your team will often come with you. And there's nothing I like to see more in World of Tanks than having like a stock vehicle making that push play. You can tell that I'm a little bit worried about the Gorilla up there, and I'm a little bit hesitant about flanking down to get behind this Tortoise and the Kampfpanzer. And I'm trying to weigh up my odds. I don't want to get hit by the FP405. I don't want to get hit by 2 Gorillas, and oh dear. I hit the FP405 on the move, but I do take 1 round from a Gorilla there. I absorb another round from a Skoda, and a quick repair kit keeps my tank rolling. And now hopefully I can get behind the Tortoise, put 1 round in, and I make a bit of a misplay here. I'm thinking about going behind him and blocking him, and then I realize, oh god, my traverse speed is actually really bad. So I end up getting 1 round into the Tortoise, not high rolling, and so I might take some extra damage here, but thankfully, the very well-rounded side armor of the M103 allows us to be able to ricochet that shell from the British tank destroyer. And yeah, definitely over-angle this vehicle. It's one of the best things about it, and the same about the T110E5, is that it's got this kind of like bow-shaped side. And so if you do over-angle it, you will be able to pull off some ricochets. And so far, I'm pretty chipper about this result. Managed to push through a flank, done 2,200 damage, 900 assistance, and I was thinking, oh, it's really good. And then I wake up and I realize, this game's actually pretty close, yo. Even though we're up by a vehicle, we're actually down by 4,000 hit points. But luckily, the Progetto 65 on our team is managing to go back to base to hopefully protect it. I get hit inside by the Charfuture 4. Hopefully I'm going to put a round hit here against the Grilla. And I'm not sure if I have intuition on this tank. I don't think I do. I don't think I have intuition. Otherwise, I should probably switch out for an HE shell here against the Grilla. But I don't think it would be worth preloading an HE shell because we don't know whether somebody else is going to appear or one of our team would hit the Grilla in that scenario. Unfortunately, it means that the Grilla escapes on 21 hit points, and that's not a tank that you want to leave in the game. I just managed to lose pretty much half my hit points to a Grilla just a minute ago, and yeah, leaving them in the game on 21 hit points means that maybe they're going to be shutting down my team. That FV405 crushes the IS-4, preventing the tier 10 Soviet heavy tanks from advancing, and we've really got to try and get around our opponents and flank them right now. If we get held up in this situation, it could prove fatal. Luckily, the 50B on my team shuts down the Skoda T50, bounces off the Super Conqueror, as I stutter there thinking it was actually a Scorpion G for some reason, but actually no, it's there's no Scorpion G in this matchup as it's all tier 9s and tier 10s. And now the Super Conqueror, we put one round into him. We can't quite follow it up with a second, but luckily he gets blocked a little bit by his FV405, who also shuts down the 777-2 for a huge amount of hit points. And now we're actually down by 4,000 hit points, and it's completely even. If we get back into this game, it'll be a blooming miracle. Luckily, miracles seems to be happening as the AMX-50B puts 3 rounds into the Grilla, now clawing us back to being down by a tank, but only down by 3,000 hit points now rather than 4. You see, 100 on my team seems to really want me to fall back, and I can understand why. He's on low hit points, and he's just hoping that the Super Conqueror will come around the corner and go after him. But I was worried that maybe the Charfuture 4 or the 121B would cap out, and the Progetto actually handles the EBR and then handles the 121B, and now the situation's looking a lot more comfy. So the 50B follows up a shot on the Grilla. My shell goes into the subsequent wreck that was created by the French heavy tank, and the Super Conqueror unfortunately finds my E100. Well, E100, I did let him round the corner for you. Shame you weren't able to fulfill your end of the bargain. And I can't really manage to chase this Super Conqueror, and luckily for us, the FV405 doesn't shut down the 430. That FV405 is doing some serious work on the enemy team, and one of the only reasons why they're still in it. What I'm going to do right now is just hold, hope that the 50B is going to get into a better position. And I don't want to let the Super Conqueror all the way around the corner as they could shoot my 50B, but I also want to bait him. Oh, yes, son. We managed to track the Super Conqueror, fall back with that turbo. Do they manage to hit us? No, they don't. They actually miss, and then I hope I can come around the corner. And wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Oh, no, not the highest of rolls, 415, although it's not a low roll, and they're down to 18 hit points. And I'm pretty happy that we managed to handle that. We also track and lock down the 59, and come on, 50B, you've got this. Clean shots, right? No? Oh dear. Even though the CS59 is locked in place, the 50B can't seem to get the shots in. The 59 shoots me, the Progetto comes up doing hero work, shuts down the Super Conqueror, and the 50B whiffs an entire mag. I have to admit, I was pretty sad about that, but not sad enough to allow it to distract me. But this Progetto, they actually die for that as they had to hang around and the Charfuture 4 hits them from the other side of the map. The 430 finishes off the Grilla, I finish off the CS59, and all of a sudden, woo! 1 versus 4 scenario. And this 50B, I do have a bit of a look at him, and I probably feel a little bit like that Chrysler. I feel a little bit like that Chrysler, like, mate, why did you put me into that stressful situation? Why couldn't you have been able to handle the tracked and isolated CS59? But you know what? There's a big difference between typing it to someone and just feeling it, or shouting it to your mum, your cat. You'd be like, oh, hi, Fido. Is that the name of a cat or a dog? Whatever. And saying, oh, Fido, you know, I couldn't fall asleep last night because I was thinking about this 50B and how he couldn't manage to kill the CS59. And then there's like being like this E100 in chat who's just raging at the 50B for what purpose, you know? What purpose? You know what, E100? Kindly be quiet. Kindly be quiet and get carried. You sucked out and you died with no kills, and that 50B handled 2 vehicles, managed to provide that support fire, especially against the Grilla earlier, and they are still alive, winning the battle. And that's what we just saw in these last 2 games. That look, maybe it's not how you would want people to play, but they're in it. They're doing it. And work with them. Don't rage at people in chat. Shout it out to the gods. Shout it out to whoever you want. Voice it to your mates on Discord or scream it to your mum and your pets. But don't go past that barrier where you actually turn it into verbal harassment of players. Because what do you possibly think that you're going to gain from it? Do you think that suddenly they're going to admit it? Oh no, he's right. I am an awful tomato noob and now I'm going to have to uninstall World of Tanks and go and play Barbie Princess Horse Adventures. No, really at the end of the day, you just make yourself look like a big flappy idiot. So Mr. E100, kindly sit down and get carried by the Tomato 50B. So our first game in our completely stock M103 was a second class. We finished 3rd on experience behind the Chrysler. We deal less damage than the Chrysler, but I'm alive and they got themselves isolated in that scenario. And undoubtedly that enabled the support for the BZ176 on our team to be the hero of that battle. The subsequent game with a more upgraded gun, however, this was a spicy game. 1,512 base experience without the engine, without the tracks, without the top gun. I was super happy about that. And 5,800 damage even gets me a high caliber, in addition to the Confederate Medal, the ultimate support badge for where you've damaged at least 6 vehicles that were subsequently killed by your allies. And in full free-to-play brilliance, this was 114,000 credits profit as well, as I don't think we fired many, if any, premium rounds. And the 50B on our team, who I guess irritated the E100, actually ended up doing 50% more damage than him and getting a couple of frags. And while I definitely got a little bit exasperated when they didn't manage to get that CS59 in what was a very stressful and close engagement for a stock M103, when watching this replay again, I didn't appreciate at the time the amount of punishment they put up against the Gorilla and the Crossfire, and that the 50B was actually trying to work together and to create a crossfire and a synergy with the team. And so for that, it's really interesting how your brain at the time is kind of like tunnel visioning, thinking, oh, this player's not doing everything that he needs to do for me. He's not doing enough. And when you actually watch it back, you realize, yeah, they probably were. And again, they're playing at the best of their abilities. At the end of the day, it's a game. If you ever find yourself in the situation like the Chrysler, or find yourself in the situation like the E100, try and stop yourself, because at the end of the day, you're not going to look big, clever, or hard on the internet. You're just going to end up looking a little bit stupid and possibly, in scenarios, getting carried by stock tech tree tanks. Anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, that was QuickyBaby's adventures in a stock M103. Really hope you enjoyed this video, especially if you're a free-to-play player out there who wants to see your content creators not just playing fully upgraded vehicles. Then make sure you give the video a thumbs up. If you hated it, however, give it a thumbs down. And let me know in the comments down below, what is the vehicle that made you rage more than any other tank in World of Tanks when it was stock? And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.